Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Vihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Giridvaradhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Giridvaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Vihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Giridvaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna. So this standard question, whether in English or German. So which way? You don't speak German, huh? Come on. Indians speak so many languages. No, okay. So anyone who does not speak English at all? Yep. So we do like this. Speak in English. So I put the German. Do we need the microphone? Yeah, no? It's better, no? Oui? Oh. Yeah, I'm still not used to all this. I mean, I'm quite fit on computer, graphic design, but everything you say is recorded these days. And then it develops a life on its own on the internet. Yeah. Do you want to know my biggest realization while traveling now for a long time and meeting many devotees? biggest realization is that all these so-called social media, it's okay, and I mean Zoom meetings, and if there's nothing else, okay, but nothing compares to personal exchange. You see a person, you hear the voice, and you know, it's light years apart from that. It's, yeah, I think we are personalists, right? So since we have time, glasses. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Since we have extra time, might as well chant. Janmadhyasya yaton vayat itaratasya teshu abhikyaha swarat. Oh, so I just read it. Tene brahma hridayadikavaye muyanti yatsuraya tejo varim ridam yata vinimayo trishago misha hamna svena sada nirasta kukam satyam purandimahi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, first canto, first chapter. No, second chapter. Second chapter, text 7, right? That's right, yeah. So I read the full sloka and the translation. Then we do line by line and then word by word, right? Yeah, first, okay, well, I do it. Skip the formality. I read the Sanskrit sloka and the English translation. Then I read line by line to follow, and then the whole thing. How do you usually do it? Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Okay, I have the habit. I read the first, just to have the overview, and then we do. The sloka goes, Vasudeve Bhagavati, Bhakti Yoga Prayojita, Janayati Ashu Vairagyam, Jnanam Cha Yat Ahaitukam. English translation, by rendering devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. So now I read line by line, and you repeat, everyone. Vasudeve Bhagavati, Bhakti Yoga Prayojita, Janayati Ashu Vairagyam, Jnanam Cha Yat Ahaitukam, Vasudeve Bhagavati, Bhakti Yoga Prayojita, Janayati Ashu Vairagyam, Jnanam Cha Yat Ahaitukam. Now I read the whole. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Yat Ahaitukam. Oh, you do all together. Before we had first the man, and Prabhupada always said ladies. Okay, so I go word by word. Vasudeve, unto Krishna, Bhagavati, unto the personality of Godhead, Bhakti Yoga, contact of devotional service, Prayojita, being applied, Janayati, does produce, Ashu, very soon, Vairagyam, detachment, Jnanam, knowledge, Cha, and Yat, that which, Ahai, to come, causeless. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjala Shlakaya Chakshun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So you will translate simultaneously, not. I just speak English and they will. Yeah. So usually I always try to remember when Sutta Goswami spoke in front of the assembled sages in the Naimisharanya forest. Before he even started, so you're sitting at. I'm happy. No, you're sitting there. Otherwise, I would. No, it's good. Otherwise, I would get down because God brothers must be on the same. Hare Krishna. So Sutta Goswami, he, in a very humble way, he said, before I start speaking, I like to let you know, I'm using my own words now, that he will only speak to the extent of his own realization, which is, that should be the golden standard for us. And of course, if you're an exalted personality, Mahabhagavata, like Sutta Goswami, he is full of realization, overflowing. So for us, it might not be practical, especially when we preach to, let's call it outsiders, or people who have not yet any idea about what is this all about, Krishna consciousness. Then Srila Prabhupada very much wanted us to speak. And if we would only speak from our personal realization, that may not be very much. But Prabhupada, he wanted us to speak, but he made this point that if you just stick to what I say, Guru, the previous acharyas and the sages, sadhu, on Shastra, then you're safe, and you're like the, delivery, peon, they used it in Old English. Today it would be like the, DHL service, delivering the package. He doesn't touch it, he just, he doesn't take something out. I mean, the delivery man, he doesn't take the package, opens it. Oh, this is not so nice, I should add some sweet for the receiver. Or, I could use it, I take this out for myself. No. He has to deliver the package or the letter, document, as it is. So Srila Prabhupada said, as long as we stay with, if we talk according to, following Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, then we are safe. And it's Divyagyan, it's divine knowledge. And everything is perfect, although we may not have yet fully realized the aspect. One time, I wasn't there, but I read the conversation. One of the first sannyasis in ISKCON, Hanuman Swami, he was asked by Srila Prabhupada to speak to the audience. I think it was a university. Somehow, even then, there was some contamination with New Age and everything is fine and so he started to speak on the basis of modern ideas. So Prabhupada just stopped him. And he said very strict, don't speak nonsense. Just speak on the basis of Shastra. That's all. So then he continued. So that's just my small introduction. Now I need the other glasses again. So what I wanted to say, when we read the sloka, by rendering devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. So does it mean, well, I get to what is devotional service a little later, but does it mean, well, if we just do devotional service, does it mean we can neglect everything else and we will get all the knowledge anyhow, and we will get all the knowledge anyhow, and we will be totally detached just by devotional service. But devotional service means, well, we have to do something for it. You know, everyone many times quoted the 9 authorized methods: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma, Nivedanam. Did I miss? No, that's 9, yeah. So, well, I don't have to repeat, you heard many times. You can take just one, and there are examples. I'm not going to repeat all these examples for. Or you can, if you can, according to your capacity, you can perform all of these activities, which is very difficult if you try to do everything. So it's better to stick to 1 or 2 in the beginning. Well, in the beginning is actually what Srila Prabhupada called dovetailing. We all have our talents. We also usually have our attachments to certain things we like to do and certain things we don't like to do. So we all know, especially in the beginning, it's recommended. So if somebody's coming new to the temple, it's always a good idea to find out what does he like to do and engage that. It's called dovetailing. My godbrother Bhakti Vikash Maharaj, I asked him in Gokula, Navagokula in the Czech Republic near Brno. So he said, where did I start? What did I say before? Dovetailing, yeah, sorry. So dovetailing, so he confirmed the way I understood it, because English is also not my native language. Is these, which looks like a tail of a dove, bird, the one side, and then the other side is like a cutout, and it fits exactly, so it's still used in furniture, manufacturing, everything. In other words, you use what you already have in the service of Krishna. And like, you know, if you have a certain talent, you try to use that. So that's like a seamless transition from doing it for your maintenance or to become a big star. You engage it in Krishna service. So that's actually the best way in the beginning, because it's kind of seamless. And well, devotional service, not to digress, but devotional service is so wonderful. Krishna obviously wants us back, more than beyond our imagination. So I have the personal experience. For many years I had to learn, or I like to learn, everything about graphic design on the computer, image editing and pre-press work, preparing for the press. So many details you have to know, and then the technology changes, you have to stay abreast. But basically I learned all that for, you know, maintaining a family and, well, doing some nonsense also. And Krishna is so merciful, then if you come to that point, oh, I don't want this anymore. There's no ras, there's no juice in it. And it's just so much load on the brain. So then I started to work on our books again, our literature. And that's a whole different story. You feel light, you don't get tired. And what I meant to say, so years of activity I did practically for my own, in my mind. Krishna takes that and he turns it into devotional service, because even, how do you say, with back effect. You had no intention to do it as devotional service. Krishna, nevertheless, he engages you again and uses that what you learned in his devotional service. That's what I meant to say. So it's a very wonderful thing. So these 9 methods, that's our key, how we engage in devotional service. Well, I also like to say one more thing about this dovetailing. It's very good in the beginning and maybe also on the long run, but that's what happens. We engage in devotional service, and then this says, Ashu, immediately, very quickly, we acquire causal knowledge coming and detachment from the world. So that means we are ready for the next step. The next step would be, the perfect next step would be, well, we can accept any service now. And we are equally happy doing our likable activity, and we are equally happy to do something else for Krishna. Because it's, in effect, it is the same, it's all devotional service. So, and it always starts with Shravanam, of course, Shravanam Kirtanam. So that means this is a guarantee, the shloka is a guarantee that we will develop, we will get detached from everything material, and knowledge will come. And, well, knowledge comes, we just chanted the 3rd line of the shloka 1:1:1. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adhikavaye. Tene Brahma Hridaya. Brahma in this case doesn't mean Lord Brahma, it means Vedic knowledge. Hridaya, into the heart. Adhikavaye, the firstborn entity. That's Lord Brahma in this context. So this is sometimes we forget and we get discouraged. I don't mean to say that we shouldn't study the books. We should study every day, and we should study very carefully, and then it will happen that things are also getting revealed more and more in the heart. And I think every devotee has, to some extent, has that experience that you, out of a sudden, by practicing Krishna consciousness, there are certain things you realize, in the sense it goes beyond faith or belief. Even if you're very new, especially when you're new, sometimes Krishna, he gives a lot of special mercy to catch us. It may be difficult later, but Krishna likes to catch us first. So, and in my experience, maybe small realization, but in my experience like this, there's certain, I don't can say an example, but it's like you realize, well, this is the real thing. And nobody will be able to convince you otherwise. You feel it, like Srila Prabhupada many times gave the example, if you eat something, you know exactly, now it's enough. And they can make arguments and big discussion, but you know, you feel your own body, you feel when you have eaten enough, when you're satisfied. So the same thing with spiritual realization. There are certain points, sometimes they're like glimpses, and you feel, wow, now this is not just belief or faith, it is the Srila Dev Goswami, or Navadvip Srila Dev Goswami, Gaudiya Math, he had a title in one of the recordings called Reality the Beautiful. So I always liked that. Reality the Beautiful, meaning Krishna as a person. So that, of course, that gives us almost like a boost to continue with devotional service. And there's so much to do. I mean, just like, I mentioned again my old friend, we were working together in Bangkok, Bhakti Vikas Maharaj, I just met him in the Czech Republic. He said, Atma, preaching is unlimited. We were talking about different countries, like we were in Thailand together, and maybe I should go back to Thailand, all these things. And he said, preaching is unlimited, wherever you are. I said, Maharaj, I guess you're right. So it's virtually unlimited, so Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. So there's preaching is unlimited, devotional service is unlimited, and one of the signature lines of Srila Prabhupada is, there's no difficulty. Then there's a famous, for me it's famous because I saw it many times, there's also a recording in Melbourne, Australia, and it's very, very, very powerful. Prabhupada always powerful, but he said now, again in my own words, that one day you just say, okay, I give up all my nonsense. I just surrender unto you, Supreme Lord, and from now on I will just surrender unto you, and please take me as your servant, whatever. And then Prabhupada says, there's no difficulty. And you see in many interviews Prabhupada asking sometimes devotees, what is the difficulty? And then, especially there was one in France, in Nouvelle Mayapur, New Mayapur. There was a darshan in the garden, and many devotees there, and Srila Prabhupada had devotees read from Bhagavad Gita, and then Prabhupada said, so what is the difficulty? Why can't we just, 100% give up everything and surrender? So all the scholarly devotees, the sannyasis, they gave their suggestions. Well, Bhagavad Gita says, in the mind of those who are too attached to material enjoyment and distracted by the opulence, they cannot develop the firm resolution for devotional service. So many things were quoted. Prabhupada said, yes, okay. It went on it seemed like 10 minutes or something. Everyone was giving their reason why we have difficulties. And then one devotee said, Srila Prabhupada, there's no difficulty. That is my point, Srila Prabhupada said. So actually there's no difficulty. It's usually in our mind. And if we just follow our devotional service. I haven't read any of the purport yet, which we should usually do in the beginning. So I will continue with reading the purport to the sloka. Those who consider devotional service of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna to be something like material emotional affairs may argue that in the revealed scriptures, sacrifice, charity, austerity, knowledge, mystic powers, and similar other processes of transcendental realization are recommended. According to them, bhakti, or the devotional service of the Lord, is meant for those who cannot perform the high-grade activities. Generally, it is said that the bhakti cult is meant for the Shudras, Vaishyas, and the less intelligent woman class. But that is not the actual fact. The bhakti cult is the topmost of all transcendental activities, and therefore it is simultaneously sublime and easy. So it's, especially in India, Gaudiya Vaishnavism, if you heard Jaiva Dharma, you probably read Jaiva Dharma by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and you see how strong the family attachment, connection is, and that if you read Jaiva Dharma, you see the devotees who want to join the true Vaishnavas, they get a lot of difficulties from their relatives, And one thing is, what is this? You're an educated man, and you're sitting with these half-naked people, because at that time there's sometimes only Kopen, and you associate with these half-naked people, and it's all sentimentalism like that. And even, we all know the story when Sri Mahaprabhu, when he went to Varanasi, Benares, dancing, singing, falling on the ground in ecstasy, crying, the local sannyasis, Mayavadi sannyasis, they thought, well, what kind of disturbance is this? He's a sannyasi, he's behaving like a crazy man, like a sentimentalist. And so they actually confronted him. They had a gathering. You find in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And Prakashananda Saraswati, the leader, he asked, you should study Vedanta Sutra like anything, like any decent sannyasi. And what is this? You're dancing, singing, just like a... the Prakashananda Saraswati and his whole assembly of sannyasis, I think they got tricked twice. First, by studying Vedanta Sutra, they got tricked indirectly by Sankaracharya, who is none other than Mahadev, Shiva himself, into following him into this Vedanta Sutra. Then, by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they got tricked again, by the charming nature. I mean, it's described in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Sometimes we have no idea how beautiful Mahaprabhu is. Molten gold and beautiful, the whole body perfect. So, even when he was a child and he played all these tricks, you find in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, that he would, the small Nimai, he would, when they had these, Brahmanas chanting their Gayatri in the river, Jalangi river, and he would dive underneath and pull their legs and all kinds of things. And they got very angry. And then when they saw this boy, they were stunned. They couldn't chastise him. They were just enchanted. So sometimes we forget this. Krishna himself combined, Srimati Radha Krishna combined in one person. They were stunned. Of course, he did all kinds of mischievous things too. Going to bathing ghat for the ladies, bathing ghat for the men. So he mixed all, when they were in the water, he mixed all the cloth, the outer garments, so when they came out, they had a hard time, because man, woman, So he was playing all these tricks, but again, they couldn't be angry at him. So what I wanted to say when I digressed is that, so everyone knows when Prakashananda Maharaj confronted Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said, Murka tumi, my Guru Maharaj told me. He asked him, why is all this? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, my Guru Maharaj Ishvarapuri, he told me, Murka tumi, tumara, nahika Vedanta adhikara, Krishna mantra japa shada, a mantra sada. So you always said, you're a fool, you're a fool. You're not fit to study Vedanta. You better chant this one mantra, the Maha Mantra, the Hare Krishna mantra. So, it's not in conclusion. Well, we know that later they all got converted and they themselves became ecstatic, previously very dry Mayavadi sannyasis. They became ecstatic, crying tears. So that is a proof that even those who are on a very advanced spiritual level are attracted by pure devotional service. What is the famous one? Atmaramas chamunameo niyagranta piyurukrame kurvanti ahitukim bhaktim itam buddha gunohari. That even those practically self-realized persons, they get attracted by the personal features, and that's mainly through the chanting of the holy name. So, I continue with reading the purport. The bhakti cult is the topmost of all transcendental activities, and therefore it is simultaneously sublime and easy. It is sublime for the pure devotees who are serious about getting in contact with the Supreme Lord, and it is easy for the neophytes who are just on the threshold of the house of bhakti. To achieve the contact of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is a great science, and it is open for all living beings, including the Shudras, Vaishyas, women, and even those lower than the low-born Shudras. So what to speak of the high-class men like the qualified Brahmanas and the great self-realized kings. So it's for everyone. I always notice now that, well, in the modern society, if you go, and preach to them, the less intelligent woman class, things like that, people get very disturbed these days because they don't understand. And they don't understand we are talking on the basis of Shastra, Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. And I mean, and even devotees sometimes get bewildered. But the fact of the matter is, even in the Vedic women are much higher than, I'm born in Hamburg, typical Kali Yuga kid, grew up playing soccer, football, and this. So it's a misconception sometimes that we think, the men and the women and so on. The fact is that we born in Kali Yuga are actually also lower in intelligence actually than the women mentioned here, because the women, Shudras, Vaishyas mentioned in Shastra, they belong into the Varnashram Dharma society, whereas, being born Chandala, Huna actually, East Germany and Russia, they're supposed to be Hunas, whatever. So we are all low-born, so this whole discussion is totally mute, also in the light that we were discussing in the car yesterday, or that, no. That I was discussing with a friend, in many ways, being in a body of a lady or woman or girl, it's a huge advantage. Because male body means, usually we have a lot of hang-ups, technical, and this, and why is it like this, and, well, if I should do the service, why? And why don't we do it like this? Whereas for a lady, the tendency is, almost like inherent. inherent tendency to follow, and follow with intelligence. And then if they find the right leader, husband, they are perfectly safe. And we should also notice that externally we may find many contradictions in Shastra, even the words of the Guru. Like Prabhupada many times, in the beginning of the Ishopanishad, in the preface or foreword, he is talking to an audience in London, and he's saying that there are contradictions in the Vedas. Like you never touch the stool of an animal, you have to take immediate bath. At the same time, you use actually the cow dung for making nice floors, and for fire, for cooking, even like that. So it's a external, or whatever you call it, contradiction. But that's what Veda means. We just follow the Vedas, and sure enough, we find passages that Shastra said less intelligent, like Shudras, Vaishyas, women. At the same time, I don't know the exact shloka, I think it's 10th chapter, where Prabhupada lists the qualities of women. And there's, humility, and so, but there's also intelligence. So Bhagavad Gita says both. So I don't see any problem with that. And if you just follow Shastra, everything is perfect. That's one thing many who are not yet devotees, they find it hard to swallow, that Shastra is always right, there's no exception. But it's only for devotees aspiring or accomplish whatever, they accept it. Not only accept it, they embrace it after a while. They really embrace it. So what does it mean? So we may think sometimes, new devotee, or I'm so unqualified, this and that. And the fact is, though, that if somebody is able to chant the Mahamantra, even jokingly, and if somebody is coming to the temple and he's able to bow down before the deity, that means it's a very advanced soul, although he may appear like a new devotee, and Srila Prabhupada many times confirmed, many times, sometimes he said it indirectly, but he said many times in different words, somebody who comes to Krishna consciousness, there must be something in previous lives, sometimes called Agyata Sukriti, unknowingly do something for Krishna or the spiritual master, maybe a very small thing, but there is always something building up. If somebody in this life feels attracted to the deity, feels attracted to the devotees, is able to pronounce. Not everyone can. Do you see some? I noticed it was the first time in years that I went on Harinams in Karlovy Karlsbad in Czech Republic, and then later in Brno, and then in Ratha Yatra in Leipzig. And I noticed, I will be 71 soon, quite old, so I joined in 1972. So those very intense years were 1973, 74. They were very intense all over the world. We got the Bhaktivedanta Manor at that time. Germany, so much happens, it exploded virtually all over the world. So at that time in Germany, Sankirtan was different. Sankirtan now, in this context, I mean both, Harinam and book distribution. So I just say Sankirtan for now. It was like, we spent sometimes half a day at the police station, because they wanted to know, what are you doing, and you're not allowed to do this, and what are you telling people, and this and this and that. Or Ordnungsamt, they call it, the office for whatever. for law and order. There's not police. So we had to explain, and then they wanted to fine us, and then they said, and so we went to the next city. 4 hours, same thing. Police and tack, 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 tack. Yeah, tack, 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 tack. Writing all the big report, and then they let us go. And well, devotees, they took it as an opportunity to preach, but it was tough sometimes. But also when we preached on the street, or even we didn't say anything, we would try to sell a book, and somebody would come, oh, better get some work, you're living at the expense of society. I'm sure it's still happening today, but at that time, especially in Germany, it was quite intense, and people would get aggressive. I don't want to tell stories really, but there's this good story that illustrates it. I don't know if you know Akrura Prabhu, from the old Akrura, in one of the first disciples. Many years ago he was here. Oh, many years, yeah. So I had opened the center in Cologne, and we did every day Harinam and book distribution. At that time we did Harinam, and then everyone book distribution. Not simultaneously. And then again Harinam, then book distribution. So sometimes we would actually, when people ask questions, aggressively or not, we will start preaching on the street. We're still doing it. And so in Cologne, on the main shopping street, I saw a big cluster of people, angry, and in the middle was Akrura, like totally undisturbed by these people. So he was preaching, trying to give them Krishna consciousness, the basic, and they were arguing back. Then so just to see how illustrative, was like a fight really, a verbal fight. And Akrura being Akrura, he's an artist, he's, Akila Prabhu knows him well. He's an artist, and he's also, how do you say, eccentric a little bit. So they were yelling at him, and Akrura said, "You people, you don't even wash your hands after going to the bathroom. I don't talk to you anymore." So he left. So that was kind of situation. We had to deal with it some or other, and I think Akrura, in his own spontaneous thing, I think that was a good thing to say. Then the people were standing there. They were totally quiet. They never expected anything like that. So what I see now, Leipzig, Brno, and Kaluivari, those are the big Harinams I went on, that it appeared to me that 99.99% of the people, not exactly favorable, but, how do you say, sympathetic. And they liked it, they smiled, maybe some making fun. And very rare, I saw a person, "Oh, you're blocking the way," real angry face, but just one person. Same, Leipzig, Brno, like that. So, that means it's a good chance. And looking at the world situation, frankly, I don't look anymore. I look at the text news, just no pictures, no advertising online. I just skim the headlines, and I know it's nothing really important. And rather read Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, like that. So it's a good chance for the devotees now to cultivate. Well, there are always two. Cultivate our own sadhana, bhakti, our own bhajan, inner bhajan. At the same time, we have to do preaching. That is the order of our Guru Parampara. So preaching, of course, is not limited to speaking openly on the street or on the internet or this and book distribution, but by setting the example, like a place for people to come. Basically, it's all preaching. Whatever we do, support let's call it the Hare Krishna movement. It is. So, always happy to see when devotees come from India, or you live in London, of course, because we need you. For you, many things which are still difficult for us, they are second nature to you people in India, like spotless cleanliness outside the house. So many things, they are second nature for you, and Srila Prabhupada went through a lot of trouble to teach us all these things personally, and still we are lacking. Different culture. So if we combine, that's Prabhupada's not only dream, but he wanted that reality. Western people and the people from India, if they combine, then we can do wonderful things. And people will take it seriously. Then they know, oh, this is a culture going back indefinite in time. So, of course, German people in general have the advantage that they have a very high respect for Indian culture, except for a few, they say, oh, cow slaughtering, why don't they? But there's a very few, Germany has big faculties for Sanskrit on the universities, so there was always some respect. So in Germany, I guess especially, and in the 70s, when I was active here in Germany, in Hamburg, I think there was one, Calcutta Stuben, one gentleman from Bengal, he had some tea shop and some spices. And Frankfurt, but now, well, thanks to IT, so many. I mean, Hamburg University, Technical University, crowded with, devotees who are living with their family, of course, and but devotees and they also come to the temple every Sunday in Hamburg. And so this can make a big, big impact. The preaching effort. Of course, the best thing is to set example. And that, I have to still learn a lot. So I think for now, some questions maybe, right? Or maybe some comments, or even if your question which is not directly in contact with this particular shloka. And
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much for the nice lecture, nice talk. I know that maybe not all the present devotees here know, but you've been the last 30 years or something, you said, engaged in editing and translating Prabhupada books.
Yes, from 92, well, even before that in Thailand, say from 86, well, till almost 2 years ago, for commercial stuff.
Yeah. So, could you share something like your experience about how this helped you in the times when there was no association with the devotees, or no association with Prabhupada, at least in his physical presence? So could you share with us some realization or how your relationship developed with Prabhupada through translating his books and editing them?
Oh, yeah. Well, of course, that will be quite a long story if I go into the details. Well, because once you get so busy, and everyone who has a family and a job or a business, everyone knows, especially if you're self-employed, freelance, it can be very tough because your invoices, bills will come without fail at the end of the month. But the money people owing you from your assignments, they may delay and delay and delay and delay. So it can be very tough, what I meant to say. So you're in that environment, you talk to people, but it's not like, Krishna consciousness never get mentioned. People, they realize, this guy, there's something. Like this big businessman, Hari Krishnadas from the Netherlands. He became a very big businessman after living monastery life in the temple. And very big. He was among the top 500 successful businessmen in the Netherlands. So Netherlands is not very big, but they're very smart businessmen usually. Very friendly, but they take the money also very friendly, very happily. So he was like number 337, somebody told me, top of the list. But the business people, they called him the mantra businessman. They know there is something else. And he also get a chance. If people were receptive, he could speak about chanting. So I also met devotees sometime, but all in all, it was very tough. And you start associating and so much small talk. Non-devotees, they love this talk. For somebody who's an aspiring devotee, whatever, it's such a strain, small talk and mundane talk. It just sucks your energy and you just want to go. So, always, it's like this. If you think you can forget Krishna, forget it, you can't. It's like, I didn't actually try to forget Krishna, but Krishna is such such an expert trickster, He always shows you something, like, it's impossible to forget Krishna. You walk around totally absorbed on your next design project, then the sky turns. Yeah, I'm a bit, sentimental also, but then the sky, I'm also a photographer, so I watch these things intensely. Big thunder clouds, beautiful, and then the sun comes through, and you forget about all interesting Shyama Sundar. Smaranam. In my own small way, you feel smaranam, you feel inspired by this blue blackish sky. Wow, that's the complexion of Krishna as compared to this. Of course, it's much nicer than we can see in, the outside nature. But the fact is, I don't know who exactly said it in these exact words. I think it was Srila Bhakti Rakshaka Sridhar Swami. That Krishna, once you let him in, into your heart, he will small, shut again, get afraid, too much for me. He will never leave again. Not only he will never leave again, Krishna won't give up, so to say, until he has taken full possession of your heart. And there's nothing else. So we really have to make up our mind. Do we want this? Of course we want it. So I guess if you're, in my case, if there's some seriousness, some sincerity, even if it gets covered, Krishna doesn't sorry. Krishna doesn't let you go. Again, he just holds tight. So there's no way out. And it should be like that. So I guess that's my realization. It's in my own small way. I cannot fathom the entire thing. But it's always, nothing is, it's a most pure Krishna consciousness, pure bhakti, is the most precious thing in the world. And it cannot come cheap. It's impossible. Even if Krishna wanted to make it, it wouldn't work. It cannot be cheap. Otherwise, where would be the genuine love? We are not developing. There's nothing to develop. It's all already in our heart. We are only separated by our own concepts, concoctions, and maybe layers and layers and layers of, false ego, karma, remaining karma, we don't know. So, but the fact is, we have to learn to think beyond time and space as we know it in this world. So if eternal means no beginning, no end. It also means everything is now. According to my understanding, I'm limited, but that means everything is now, but at the same time it's inconceivable. Because in the spiritual world there must be some kind of present, future. Actually there's only present, but there are moonrise, sunrise. We see pictures of Krishna with the moon. Or maybe that was Gokula, not Goloka, I don't know. But anyhow, the essence is, Prabhupada many times mentioned also, this is not manufactured. When he talked to, at Schloss Rettershof, when Srila Prabhupada was there, when he gave the darshan to guests and parents. My parents were there. And his line in the end, it's again, I think he said, there's no difficulty. And he said, there's nothing manufactured artificially. Krishna consciousness is the most natural thing in the world. That's why back to Godhead. We are not moving on to Godhead, we are going back to Godhead, hopefully. So, and back to our original self. That's the way I understand it. So my realization is, in a nutshell, Krishna, once you have with some minimal sincerity approached him, you're lost. I mean, you cannot. It may even take another few lifetimes, but usually my experience is, once you make one small step, things are happening. Like I said before, 73, 74, there was so much happening. And I think one reason was that the devotees, with all their imperfections, they were like gung-ho, there's this word, for Srila Prabhupada. Anything Srila Prabhupada orders, we will do. But mind you, there's no such thing in ISKCON like the good old days. There is no such thing. It's a fallacy. Because if you even if I tell you, and you read the letters, Srila Prabhupada, chastising, from the early days, he always had to deal with so many problems. But there was this big unifying factor, so. It was very dynamic. Any more question? Govinda Dev, Prabhu?
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. I'm always very keen on hearing about the old stories, because it's very inspiring. And I heard about this when I was reading this book, Prabhupada Disciples in Germany.
Yes.
And I think you were also interviewed there.
I think too small. Yeah, get to that. Yeah.
And but I was interested because there was this whole story with this buses of Srila Prabhupada, and Harisori Prabhu also talks. Hamsadutta had these big buses, and there was this whole journey from Germany to India, and then I don't know if you could tell a little bit about this. I thought it was a very interesting, because nowadays we can imagine, buying buses in Germany and driving with all of them to India.
Well, and it actually has become a little dangerous in some places now. It was then, but we were young, so there's no danger when you're young. I mean, if you see a child are just, not aware of much of danger. They jump around and run and, So, and we were in our early 20s. But, I mean, Hansaduta, well, first of all, Vedavyas, now Bhakti Gauravani Maharaj. Yeah, the book is good. I don't know what Akila Prabhu is standing on it. I read it twice, and I had one realization also. Again, one realization was, any author, you write something, you will see things through your own vision. Whether it's me, or somebody else, or it's natural. And, like there's some people who write these novels, many times the main character is themselves. Sometimes they don't even know. But it's like that. So Vedavasi, well, let's put it this way. He had some gripe with the idea that the German Yatra was flourishing, and then the GBC was changed from Hansaduta to Jayatirtha, and he liked Jayatirtha better, put it in plain words. And he didn't like the idea that we, Hansaduta's men, we were talking like this, and I was the main target because Hansaduta put me in charge of these first 2 trips overland. That we are taking all these devotees, 40 devotees, out of Germany. And, this was flourishing, but they were also struggling because it was the aftermath of the big court case and the police raid on Schloss Rettershof. Well, there are a lot of stories to tell. And so, what do I want to say, Vedavyas? So, I have to admit now, in hindsight, that he was right. It's not the right thing to do, just to take all the equipment and, flourishing. German Yatra was recovering from the police raid, and the money was frozen. And on top of that, now Hansaduta and his man used to talk, Guru Kripa man, used to talk like that, and take all these vehicles out. On the first trip, I think we had 6 vans, almost brand new. But devotee brand new, a devotee van brand new means already so much mileage because they always go on traveling. So, I digress again, but one gentleman who bought our second-hand cars, expert, I said, we are very agreeable on the price. We get what you want. You are happy with the price. Why? But I'm interested. Why you paid so much for Mercedes vans at that time with so much mileage on it already? Because that usually like 300,000 kilometers. That reduces the price. He said no, but the model year is very new, so we were running kilometers after kilometers after that. So we had 6 of these vans, I remember, and 3 big buses, 1 MAN and 2 very old Jägermeister and Corvette. They had alcohol advertisement. They were city buses. Okay, long story short. So, and all the devotees, not all were from Germany. We were 45 devotees. Some were from England. Our mechanic, Ravi, at that time, he was still Steve, Ravi, and some from France, and 2 or 3 from America or US. But in hindsight, I have to say Vedavyas was right. Do you want to do your Nitai Goa world traveling party? Then, create your own resources, and you bought those buses, so take those buses like this, but don't take all the vans and all the people. And Harikesh Maharaj, he wasn't any official position, not GVC, not this. He was like the recognized sannyasi leader for Eastern Europe at that time. So many of you remember Harikesh Maharaj, I'm sure. Yeah. So, he said one thing which convinced me afterwards. He said, Atmavidya, you're taking mridangas back to India, that's like taking coals to Sheffield or Kohle ins Ruhrgebiet or so früher, you know. So I guess he was right, you know. But these are, especially this, and there, well, if you don't mind, you asked me to give class tomorrow again. So if you mind, we can make it informal and base it on Bhagavatam again. And then I can tell you the story. Because there's a lot of...
Because on the other side, we heard also from Harisori Prabhu, when the two arrived in India, there's also the second story. So it's an interesting chapter.
And the thing is, there are Srila Prabhupada's instructions in between. So I guess we can do it, because I really, you know, this storytelling, I mean, entertainment is fine, but if it becomes the main thing, I'm not much a fan of that. But if you can combine it with philosophy, well, it is, because it's Shravadam Kirtanam, Vishnu, it's all devotional service. And if you remind me tomorrow, there's one particular story which I will never forget, going overland with the buses, which opened my eyes that devotional service can take very extreme forms or extreme shape. But I don't know, now the time is pretty much over, right?
Yes.
And you usually have Gita classes at night?
Yes, but today...
So the next 3 days we don't have classes at night, right?
No, we have Julan Yatra. We will have short katha about Radha Krishna Julan Yatra.
So that's nice. And so then I concentrate on the mornings if you want me.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
And maybe if we talk about, maybe Akila wants also to sit with me when we talk about Rettershof time. Because you may remember some details better than me. Yeah, so. Well, also, I mean, as far as direct instruction from Srila Prabhupada are concerned, and direct association with Srila Prabhupada, it's also not much in quantity in my life. Not like Srimati Govinda Dasi or Guru Das or Shyam Sundar, Malati, Mukunda, Hansaduta, you know. But there's some. And Govinda Dasi, she asked me, she asked me to speak in Leipzig. So I told the story how I came to Krishna consciousness. And my first meeting Srila Prabhupada in Bhaktivedanta Manor, and Sweden, and also Germany. But I didn't get to the Indian part. And in India, I had more direct association. In India, especially at that time, in the morning walk, we were only like 5 people and Srila Prabhupada, and you know, and all. India is different. You know, Sabjiwala comes and Prabhupada says, "How much for the whole lot?" And they haggle, you know. You see, and it's almost like Leela, and so yeah, then we can place it in the morning, because today is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So if you don't mind having me again, I'm willing to.
Yes. Yes, please.
So sorry, it's my tendency to digress sometimes, but I'm not much a fan of really preparing talks in detail, unless it's like a seminar setting. You know, then I find it's not only okay, it's good to even have these PowerPoint projections or any other. We don't want to advertise Microsoft, you know, but then I think it's great. Otherwise, the shloka, and especially now, I'm very astonished that all you young devotees, You like to hear all these old times. I guess it's, well, if we can make the connection to the present and future, it can be very valuable for everyone. So I try to do my best in that regard. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Atmavidya Prabhu ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Jashipala Lakshmana Singari Bhagwan ki jai.
So I think I can leave the books in the temple now.